Welcome to Road to Billions podcast, the mentality of an entrepreneur. With your host, Moise Bertrand.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Moise Bertrand, your host of Road to Billions podcast. I love you guys. I love you guys for listening and chiming in and giving me great reviews on everything I've been putting out there so far, supporting me from the Instagram feed to Navineeds marketing agency. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for even, chiming back in and listening, because there's going to be so much great information I'm going to drop on this episode. You guys are going to go walk away with a bit of knowledge, and I hope that you guys could use this to your best abilities and come back and give me some advice on anything I could learn. So today's episode, I'm going to go ahead and call it Putting Money in the Right Places. And I want to talk to you guys, personally about this, because not a lot of people shed light on this. And I get kind of sick and tired of people not wanting to know better for themselves, not wanting to do better for themselves, not wanting to just go ahead and do the research. But, that's why they pay other people to help you do these things in life. And I feel as if sometimes the best teacher only could be experience. And a teacher is someone who gives you the lesson, and then you go ahead and you take whatever you have from that lesson and you implement it in your life. So today, putting money in the right places, I want to go ahead and dive right into it. I want to tell you guys, during this pandemic, there were so many jobs lost, right? So many people lost their jobs. So many people start going crazy. Can you ask yourself, why did people start stressing out? These people work 40, 50, 60 hours. These people was working 50 hours, 60 hours a week, making $20 to, let's say, $50 an hour. But they're stressing because the pandemic just popped up, and now so many people are losing their jobs. Well, let me tell you what happened. Well, when COVID struck back in March, a lot of people weren't in the right place of mind at that time, where they thought, hey, I have a great job, I make so much money, I don't ever think about something like this ever happening or ever going to happen. And the extent that it was at the time, it didn't seem like it affected the whole world. And certainly it didn't affect some people who were making that much money, as I could say. And a lot of people, they started to realize that things were starting to slow up when the whole country and the world was catching on to this virus. And a lot of people were just talking about, hey, I'm going to start applying for, employment, food stamps. I got to remortgage my house, my car notes back 2-3 months. I got to go ahead and try to get that postponed. There's so many things that people were just starting to put on standby that they didn't realize played a big part in their everyday life. And that went ahead and deteriorated their savings and their monthly expenses. And what I mean by that is, say for example, somebody's making, let's say, I'm gonna break it down to you guys easily, because someone making 100,000 could be broke as the person who's making 30, and it's not about the salary, it's about what you do with that money. It's about your day-to-day expenses. And I want to give you guys this short story here. I had a dude who I went ahead and I spoke to, because I just came out of college. I went ahead and graduated college, and I didn't go to grad school, mind you guys. I'm still working as a serial entrepreneur. I'm working on Road to Billions podcast. I'm working on Navineeds marketing, and I'm working on other big things, projects coming out real soon. And one of the biggest things about being an entrepreneur is that you have no boss. You have nobody you really go to and get a paycheck from or get a 401k from, because you bet it on yourself. And a thing about being an employee is that so many people don't understand. You have that check coming in every 2 weeks. An entrepreneur doesn't, depending on how their movement is, or how income. It fluctuates between people. So you have these people making all this money per year, and they're not putting their money in the right places. And what I mean by that is, you have different stocks and different trading platforms that so many people could just go in and put a monthly deposit in, like $100 and $200. And people think about that like, wow, that's a lot of money. But you wouldn't think twice about taking that trip to Cancun's. You wouldn't think about it twice taking that trip to Houston or Dominican Republic, because it's an experience and you feel like it's going to pay you back in reward in that moment. But what happens 2-3 months later when that trip is already gone with, and now you have to supposedly go back to work, but there isn't no work, and you spent all your money on this trip. Well, what happens then? You start to freak out. And the thing is, a lot about these families, they started to freak out, not because they made the wrong decision, because trust me, we all make mistakes. But the mistake here was more expensive, as I could say, because a lot of people lost so many. Real estate companies went bankrupt. So many people lost their jobs, and that's because people didn't put their money into stocks, into bonds, into crypto. And I'm not saying these people had to put in millions of dollars in order to see the reward now, but I'm saying, what if these people, these same working hard class people, started investing last year, put in $50 a month? Everybody from the family contribute $50, and then there's 5 people in the family. That's $250 per month you're investing inside the stock market. And this is what gets a lot of people, this is what stops people from investing. They don't know how to invest. And that's the mistake that we as a society, we made. And that's why I'm here talking to you guys as personable I could get. I'm telling you guys, you have to put your money up, because think about this like this in this manner. Stocks play as a second savings account for yourself if you don't have one already. And I call it that because you have to be able to be disciplined when you put that money away. You can't just see something drop down and hurt and want to pull all your money out, because that defeats the purpose of you just even call an investor. Investing. You're not really believing in the long term. You just only look for short term. And that's something that you have to get out the mindset of. And, these people, they could have easily been putting away, hundreds. And I don't even tell people a lot, you don't have to put that much money in the stock market. And that's the beauty of the stock market. It doesn't have no type of limit of how much you can put in, because every stock prices itself different. So say, for example, someone who was, making $100K, but they was living off $2,000 a month, living expenses, right? Rent, $1,200, car note, $300, and then that's $1,500. But you get the point. They probably insurance, every other, whatever they have on the side, and they're living below their means. They have all this money to put into the stock market, and these people are now realizing that, hey, I'm lucky I put my money in last year, because all the bankruptcies that happen with these companies, these large 500 companies, Fortune 500 companies, you guys can't possibly think these people are going to really let companies that generated billions of dollars over the years and had millions and millions and millions of dollars invested in would just predominantly just vanish from the face of the earth. That's where people go wrong at. See, when the pandemic struck, a lot of these stock prices dropped down because people started getting afraid and they started withdrawing their money. Oh, I need some money. I need some extra cash. I need to start selling everything. But whenever there's an upside down, it's always called a flip. There's an up, there's a down. When there's a down, there's an up. So when these stocks were so cheap and everything, people were just thinking that, man, this company's going to go bad. I'm going to sell my stocks. I'm going to get all the value of the stock, and I'm just going to go ahead and go about my business. And the people who had the rich dad mentality told themselves, well, I'm going to make this stock, even though the stock market may be dropping down, I may be losing money, sooner or later it has to jump back up. And that's why I tell people, stocks act like a second savings for yourself. You can't just be dipping into it every time, because people are just going to be telling you, hey, you keep dipping into that, you're never going to go far in life. You keep dipping into that, you're never going to get your money out of it in the first place. So I was telling people in the beginning, put your money in stocks, but no one ever wanted to listen. And I told people, you have to put your money up and make it act like a second savings, because if you do that, sooner or later, you're adding something to your new arsenal, and that's called compound interest. Compound interest is easily what something adds onto each other over time. It builds up gradually. It's like somebody putting 2 cents in every day. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It continues to add up. And that comes with the mentality of putting that money away, not touching that money, not be able to, play with that money when you need it to, because that money is now a second savings in your life. And that's where everything comes and ties in at. That abundant mentality. I can't put all this money in every month. I don't know if I'm going to get it back next month. Well, that's your fault. You have to change that way you think, because if you keep thinking that you're never going to get that money back, sooner or later, you're never going to get that money back. That money is going to be dead and gone. And the mentality you put out there is the energy that you will receive. So if you're telling yourself, I'm not going to realize how I'm going to get this money back, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this up, you're essentially telling your mind and the body you're in, I don't think I'm capable of continuing this process. And your body just automatically calls itself shutdown mode. So when everything starts to tie in, you want to get out that lack of mentality, lack of abundant, mentality, that thinking. It retracts you from your original goal, which is putting that money up every month. It makes you second guess yourself. So you have to have that affirmative mentality that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to put $20 in at the end of each week, I'm going to put $20 in. If I have to put $100 every month, I'm going to put that $100 in. And you can't be afraid to just put things up, because things are going to pay you back in reward over time. But you have to be able to be disciplined. You have to be able to be affirmative. And you have to be able to look at things as a second savings. You never want to look at things in a such where, wow, if I put this money out here, it's going to pay me back. If I think lackly, I'm not going to be able to continue this journey. If I don't have a disciplined mindset, I'm not going to be able to tell myself every month, this is what happens. And that's what happens with so many people. You have to look at yourself like, wow, I'm doing this because why? I'm doing this because do I want to put money up, or I'm doing this because I just don't want to deal with this money. And honestly speaking, it doesn't matter what you want to do with that money. You have to just commit and discipline yourself to putting that money up every month, or whatever time frame you want to put it in. Because there's going to be a time where you look back at your stocks and you've been putting them in 7 months in a row. Now is at $6,000. The stocks grew, your portfolio grew, everything's growing, and now you're at a different point where you can say, wow, I'm lucky I have put that money up a couple months ago, because now it saved my ass. It saved me because I didn't know where or what I was going to do with this money. And, after you take that time to actually, develop that second savings account, like how you think it, the stocks, you have that abundant mentality, and you have that discipline. Now you just have to go into this saying, what stocks? And I'm going to give you guys stocks to put in right now in a few. But essentially, it all comes down to what would you do and what are you going to do? You have to have patience, because with great patience comes great reward. When you're able to patient, when you're a master of your patience, you no longer have to feel as if everything is in rushing mode. It's coming regardless. You're just being patient for it. So some of the things I tell people is to go look at things such as Coinbase. They have a great trading system for crypto, and crypto is essentially digital money, you guys. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, these things are digital currencies that maybe you may not be using right now, but there's other people in this world that transfer and sell and buy things using these digital currencies, because these digital currencies have no link to a person or a name or a company. They're just digital currencies, anonymous. And then you have Apple. Apple is a great company, a tech company, just for people to be putting money in, because Apple will forever make products that people love. I'm not being biased, but people are, I see every person I walk by either has an iPhone or AirPods. You thought I was going to say Android. No, iPhone or AirPods. One of the two they have, if not both. So it tells you what type of impact Apple already has on this planet. You don't have to see it to know what's going on. You could just see, you could just hear, you could just read about it and know Apple is going to play a big part of today's economy and today's society within our generation. And when you put money in these stocks, you have to just tell you guys, you have to put money in and look at where it's going to go. And people think, oh, if I put money in Bitcoin, is it going to drop? Is it going to go up? When is it going to go up? When is it going to drop? People, that's not the mentality you should have. The mentality you should have is, okay, I did my research, I did my due diligence, I see everybody's investing in this, they've been talking about this for a while, why not just put my money up for a little bit of time? And if all goes bad, I can take my money out still. But that's not a mentality I'm telling you guys to think in. I'm just telling you that's the questions, you have to ask yourself, because you don't want to miss any opportunity. And Bitcoin is a very great digital currency to trade because it fluctuates a lot. And one thing I want to pinpoint about, someone asked me a question. They say, hey, Bitcoin is at $12,000. I don't have $12,000. And one thing about Coinbase, you could put in the amount that you want to invest. And then it's essentially you saying you're riding that wave. So if Bitcoin is $12,000 and it goes to, like, say, for example, $13,000, right? But at $12,000, you put in $150, $200, right? Your account is going to go up because it rode that wave of Bitcoin. So it's going to go up. If you put in 150, it may go up. It's going to go up, to probably 180, 190, depending on how much volatile is in the market going on at the time, how much it went up. These things are going to go up. And by the time you put your 2 cents in, you're still riding that wave. You're called an investor for a reason. You're investing in a small portion of something big. You want to see that wave take off. And you don't want to get in that mentality where you say, wow, this stock is $200. There's things called fractional shares I want you guys to look up on. And that's exactly what I said about Bitcoin. You buy into the stock, not wholeheartedly. You don't have to buy a whole $480 Tesla stock when it could just easily put in, $100 and $90 and still ride that wave if it goes up or down. And you guys have to just gradually get yourself, knowledgeable about these stocks, knowledgeable about what's going on, and self-discipline yourself to put that money up each and every day. I don't care if that money is $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6. Put that money into something that's going to, repay you back in the long term. It may pay you a quarterly dividend, which is also what a stock pays, per share. How they pay out a little small percentage. And that stock could pay you 20 cents per month. It doesn't matter. That's per share. So yeah, you may need to have $5,000 worth of shares or $3,000 worth of shares. But that stock, like I said, stocks go up and down. So that stock may not be paying 20 cents per share anymore. So now I'm giving you guys an outlook on how to just invest. Don't let these people who saying, wow, I made $3,000, $4,000 from this investment scare you guys away from making that initial investment. Because everybody started from somewhere, and experience is the best teacher. Am I going to say you're going to make some money? Yeah, you're going to make some money. Are you going to lose some money? Yeah, you're going to lose some money. But the whole point of it is not looking like that. The whole point is of not thinking of it as losing or winning. It's building that second savings, that second investment. If you have a car note, every part of your mind doesn't want to pay that car note. I hate paying a car note. But I know I have that date in mind that when that car note comes around, I'm disciplined enough to go ahead and say, hey, here's the car note money. Hey, you got me again this month. So be sure to use your funds wisely. Put your money up. Don't be afraid to take risk. Win or lose, you still have to create that second savings mentality with stocks when investing. Put your money in the right places. It doesn't have to be stocks. It could be a vending machine. It could be a website. It could be a podcast. It could be a business. It could be apparel. It could be anything you want it to be. But just remember, when you put your money into it, feed it. Don't expect it to go ahead and give you a 360 turnaround and you no longer nourishing it. Be real to yourself. Ask yourself the right questions. And don't lose out on any opportunity that's created in chaos. Thank you guys once again for listening to episode 4, hosted by your favorite host, Moise Bertrand. Appreciate you guys.